Well, thank you for joining us this evening. This is my interview with Professor Jane Harrington from the University of the West of England. Jane, your title is
Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost.
Very good. The University of West of England has evolved in recent years into, without question, one of the major universities in the United Kingdom, and is very well frequented by, and applications are improving with all the students, I think, from everywhere, because in my own travels in the US and elsewhere, Europe, particularly just recently, funnily enough, in Germany, I was chatting to a group of people, and UWE came to mind, as short for University of the West of England, as many people will know, came into the conversation. And I was very proud to tell them that I was associated with the university, and that the university are currently building a new Faculty of Business and Law building, which I think is going to be very important. So it's a great honour for me to be interviewing Jane tonight. Jane, do you think that you can teach entrepreneurialism?
Well, let me start first of all saying, actually, Stephen, you've contributed a huge amount to our entrepreneurialism at the UWE, so thank you for that. But in answer to your question, I think what I think you can do is teach enterprise and an enterprising spirit, and I think we owe that to all our graduates, actually, because I think in today's world you can't be a graduate if you don't have an enterprising spirit. But in terms of being actually teaching entrepreneurialism, I think what you can do is teach the core skills, and I think you can teach students resilience and confidence and the ability to take risks within boundaries. But I think actually what you can't do is teach them to be an entrepreneur. They have to have something inside themselves. So if you take one of our courses, I think, as you know, we have a course called Team Entrepreneurship. Yeah. And that course is unique in this country in the sense that what we do is we put the students into organisations from day one, and they set up as limited companies, and then they work together to actually develop their ability to be entrepreneurs of the future, and they take risks within a safe environment during that time. And what we actually do with those students is we interview them to put them off coming on the course, which sounds ridiculous, but it's because we want to make sure that the students who come on really understand that they're coming on to something that is radically different, and that they have the mindset to actually be able to cope with that.
Yeah, I think I can see that, Jane, because it's a very important thing in our businesses. As you know, we've discussed before. We go through a proof of concept with everything, and the first thing we do when anyone applies to us for any advice or funding or anything is to try and prove that it won't work. Trying to prove things do work is very easy, and the time to make mistakes is on paper, as I've told the students at UWE in the past. So I think that it's a very, very important thing. I do agree with you that teaching someone to be an entrepreneur, you can give them the ground rules, but you can't really. They have to develop the mindset. And that mindset is best taught and applied, I hasten to add, just in case any of you are watching this around the world, from a safe environment. Try not to make your mistakes terminal. We all make mistakes, and someone the other day said to me, "How do you always get it right?" And they must have been talking to someone way over my shoulder, because they certainly weren't talking to me. I've got it wrong many times. What is essential for an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is to try to not make those mistakes terminal. So making the odd mistake, so what? You just got to brush yourself off and start again. And I think the course is developed, and the course that's developed at UWE is teaching that. I've spoken to lots of the students, and lots and lots of the students, and they all come up with the same thing. It's been a brilliant, brilliant success at UWE.
I would agree with you. I think it is a fantastic success. When we did it, it was a model that had happened in Finland, and we developed it over here. And we were quite nervous, actually, to start with, because we weren't sure how it would be received, because it flips that whole idea of education.
Yeah.
You know, the students are learning by doing from day one. They're putting it into practice, and they access the education that they need. And they have to, interestingly, what they have to do is read.
Yeah.
as part of the course very actively to do that. And so it did feel really different.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm now convinced that if you're going to run courses around entrepreneurialism in the UK, you have to have a huge element of learning by doing.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. I mean, as an entrepreneur, we often come up with an idea, and then we have to learn about that idea. So we come up with someone approaches us maybe with an idea, or we think up an idea, and then we have to learn about that idea from that position rather than sort of starting here and building there. We start there and sort of do it laterally, and that's a typical entrepreneurial trait, actually. And it's that bit that isn't so easily taught, I think. So I think UWE have done an amazing job with this, and it isn't an easy thing for academics to get their head around initially, I wouldn't think.
No, and we employed people actually to run the course who had that right mindset.
Yeah.
Because actually, historically, that would have been really challenging.
Yeah, I thought that. How important do you think UWE, I ask you this question off the cuff really, how important do you think UWE and is to the region? Because I'll just give you my opinion. My opinion is that UWE has grown hugely over the last few years, in not only in numbers and in the way it's evolved as a university, but everyone knows of it now. Wherever you go, they've named it's been, it's really been successful, and I just wonder why you think that has happened and what you at UWE are doing to make that happen.
I'm glad you say it's important to the region. I think it's hugely important, and we've got 27,500 students, so it's a huge source of, for the economy in the region.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's because within our DNA is working in partnership. Yeah. And I think that's really, really important. So that goes from working in community groups. Yeah. So that might be Bristol, South Bristol Youth Group, for example, or it's working in schools, working with academies and multi-academy trusts, working with the FE colleges, working with local businesses, and also working in all the industrial groups that exist within the region, which I think is also equally important. We're a huge university, so we can do that. So there isn't really a bit of the region that we don't touch. For example, if I go into an organisation, almost always somebody in their HR department's been trained by us at some point. And on it goes really. And you go into the hospitals, you see that actually a lot of the nurses in the hospitals were nurses that were trained by us. Engineering, very similar, architecture, very similar. And so for me, it's about growing from that base. If you've got at the heart that partnership's important, then you actually have to work on those partnerships and develop them. Like anything, I think they only come with very good relationships and working very hard. And I think we live and breathe that. That's what we regard as really important. Well,
that's what I found, I must admit, at UWE is the feeling of partnership, the feeling of togetherness that has come out of that. And I think in business generally, I have to just make this comment, I think that business is a force for good if applied properly, and this has been my experience of the way it's taught at UWE. Business can do so much good. So enterprise is so important to every economy of the world, but it has to be measured, and it has to be for the benefit of all. It doesn't matter really about how many people. This is again my opinion. How many people at the top gain? The important thing is that we spread that wealth out across all communities, and it's essential. And my experience with UWE, the way it's thought about, and the education that comes, and the young people that come out of UWE, they all have that sort of feeling, and it's a new way. It's a new important way. So that's how I feel about that. But because of UWE's importance, because of the size of the university, obviously we've got the Faculty of Business and Law coming out of the ground, and almost complete. Yeah. How is that going?
Fantastically. As you know, it's my baby. I pushed through that we started it actually 10 years ago as a concept, and it's now going to actually arrive in January. It will be open. And I think what's fantastic about it, as you know, it's a £50 million building, so it's huge, and it will have over 6,000 students within house, and a huge number of staff actually also housed within there. but it was designed very explicitly about a concept that we wanted to be open. So we wanted a place where students, staff, businesses and communities would be able to come in, would be able to work there and would want to stay there. And that's really the concept behind it. So there's lots of pods to do some work. You can go off and sit in quiet corners, or you can have larger group working. And there's a big cafe on the ground floor, so people will be able to come and mix. And then if you go up, the staircase is very open. We've got a trading room there. We've got law courts in there. We've got an executive education suite there. So
amazing.
I think it will be fantastic. It's a fantastic asset for the region.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that people in the region will use it.
Oh, I don't think there's any question that they will. I mean, whenever I'm in Bristol or in the region generally, I mean, it's been on a lot of people's lips talking about this building, you know, and I can't wait to see it being completed in January. And
Me neither.
No, I bet. No, well, you've had a long time. It's a long gestation period, 10 years, but here you are, and I know you've put a lot of work into it. As have other people
As
at
have
you.
lots.
Yeah, I mean, great team too.
It's been a fantastic team. The architects, the construction worker, you know, everybody has kind of brought into it as an idea, and everybody's excited about it.
Yeah. Well, you see, the way it's coming and evolving, UE, is just amazing, because when you think 20, 30 years ago, where it was then and where it is now, and that's the great thing about this, is the positive attitude that has taken place and taken hold of the whole idea behind the building and the whole idea behind the evolution of UE, really. So, I mean, I think, you know, under the leadership of your leadership with the building and the leadership generally at UE, it has expanded into a major force. And it's great in the United Kingdom. We have some fantastic educational facilities. And I just ask you one other just short question, really. I mean, Brexit will affect funding for universities generally and affect us in the UK. But my view of that is that regardless of whether anyone voted to remain or not, and this is a bit of an off-the-wall comment and question really, it is the way it is, and we have to learn to live with it, and we have to evolve and deal with it. Has UE made any plans for that with student intake? And you know, I mean, I know we have lots of Chinese and other students from around the world at UE and our other great universities, I have to say. But you know, it's going to be a slightly more challenging post-Brexit, I presume.
Currently we've got students from 192 countries.
Wow!
So we've got them from all across the world,
wow.
And we've really we did actually, as soon as the Brexit outcome was announced, we did actually write to all our current students and all our potential students, and our staff, I should add. We have a lot of European and international staff too. Actually making it very clear as a university we were still open, and we were open, and that part of our values as well as partnership are around diversity, and that remains the case. I don't think British education I think it can survive without other countries, but I don't think it will be enriched without. So I think it's absolutely essential we continue to do that. So yes, we are planning Brexit. I think we have really good partnerships actually abroad, and I think it's those partnerships that we're working with to actually make sure we maintain that. And because if I was to I'll give you one example. In Malaysia, we have a very large partnership with Taylor's University in Malaysia, and we have 3,000 students at any one point studying in Malaysia. Now, what's really important about that partnership is not just the work we do with the university, but that actually then UE is known in Malaysia. So some of the work we've been doing is ensuring that we carry on developing those partnerships. Yeah,
well, that's what you see. You've heard it here tonight, direct from UE. Well, not quite direct from UE, but we in Britain, University of the West of England, and the other universities of the United Kingdom are open for business. We do want to be diverse. I think that's fair to say right across the board. We do want to be inclusive. We do want students, all of you around the world, to come and study at our great universities. We're a leading country in education, and we intend to carry on being a leading country in education. I think that's fair enough to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, diversity is so important. It's so important that we look toward each other and see what we can gain from each other's economies, each other's cultures around the world. It's so important to do that. So I think I'd like to sort of wrap up there, Jane, for this evening anyway, but thanks very much for allowing me to interview you on this. It's been a very interesting observational point for me to find out what your thoughts were, particularly on the Brexit angle. Anyone that is thinking of applying to a British university or thinking of what university to apply to, look to the United Kingdom, because we have absolutely brilliant educational facilities right across the country, particularly, I have to say, at the University of the West of England, but there are many other good universities, brilliant universities too. So please think about us, because we are very diverse in our thinking. We want to be inclusive, and we want to evolve our relationships right across the world post-Brexit. Brexit makes no difference to us with the way we want to deal with communities around the world. Do you think that's right, Jane?
I think that's absolutely right, Stephen. Thank you very much for all your kind words about UE as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.